Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good following morning to everybody. This is AMA number 16. As I say every week, hard to believe it's 16 already. The only way I keep track of the Corona time period is through these AMAs, but I am very aware of the date. It is July 9th because I remember that last week was my anniversary. So 2 plus 7 is 9. July 9th we have. Today, very, very special guest. I've been really lucky to not only have amazing guests, but actually have people that are have become my friends and in certain cases mentors. I would say today is one of those cases that I have somebody who is a real leader in the Jewish world, who's become a friend and who is a mentor to me. I've learned a lot really from her. Smadar Bar Akiva, the executive director of JCC Global, is in charge the whole huge network of JCCs all across the world, more than 1,000 JCCs, and Smadar Bar Akiva is the head of it all. That is right. So this is gonna be a good one. Say who's in the house? Benji Lovett, Jeffrey, the Laverne and Shirley of my AMA. Good morning, Ryan. Benji is saying that Smadar is Team Hamantash, and you know we'll get to that, Benji, but not yet. Please don't assume that she's Team Hamantash, and we'll see. Personally, as a proud member of Team Latka, I am not so sure. Smadar seems to me to be very Latka-ish, so we will see. Let's see. Always, if I have any new signs, I like to start off this week. Good sign, Dolna. If anybody knows what that means, you can write it in Facebook. Polls don't answer. Dolna means dun dun dun. It means lower. And I got that legally obtained, actually, this one. Proud to say legally obtained in the flea market on Sunday. So that's a nice one. Sebastian let me know that there's also Gurna Street, which is upper street. So obviously if I have Dolna, I need to have Gurna. If I have lower, I need to have upper. Good morning, Sita. Oh, my dad is watching. Uh-oh, no profanity. I'll have to talk about my intense religious observance. My dad is watching. Oh, Dad, I just got back from synagogue, and right after the AMA, I'm going to go to synagogue again, and then I'm going to take a break and then go back to synagogue. My life is just nonstop synagogue, Dad, but I do sneak out of synagogue once in a while to come to work and do this AMA. But besides that, Dad, all about synagogue. Hi, Linda. How are you? Good morning, Linda Krar. So election coming up this week in Poland. This is the second part, if we remember that there was the first round of elections and that nobody got 50%. So we will have the second round on this Sunday. The incumbent Andrzej Duda, who is the sort of far right candidate, and his challenger is Rafał Trzaskowski, who is the mayor of Warsaw, who is the sort of center-left candidate. It should be pretty close. I think Duda is favored. If I had to say, probably give him 80% chance of winning, but still, I think Trzaskowski has a decent chance. Good morning, Marcel. Marcel in the house. Now we can get started. Marcel Zielinski is in the house. And I'm going to mention Marcel also in a little bit because I'm going to talk about what I'm doing this Sunday, which is something very exciting. In terms of what's happening in Poland, we continue to be opened for the countries that we mentioned last week. So we're open for the EU, just about all the EU, but still closed to the US and other countries. More things will be announced on July 14th, which is on Tuesday. They'll announce some more. Kathy Langhouse. Hey, good morning, Kathy. How are you? Good to see you here. So in terms of the JCC, what's going on at the JCC, we are moving from once a week with the seniors to next week will be twice a week in the afternoons. We're having slowly building, have the senior citizens, our survivors, here a little bit more often. Friday has gone to full time, so they've changed the regulations, and we have been able to announce we've been able to expand Friday from, we started out 5 hours and now it's a full-time program for the Friday kids, which is very, very good news for them and very good news for their parents after 4 months of lockup. So we're happy that things are getting back to normal. We still have a long way to go. All the language classes and everything else going on at the JCC is still happening via the internet, via Zoom. But we're getting closer and closer to being more functional. Saul Schachter, good morning, Saul from Seacliff, Long Island. Good to see you, Saul, my friend. Kasha Leonardi, oh, long time no speak. I know you, Kasha. How are you? How are things there in our apartment, Kasha? Good to see you. Checking in. Now, Kasha, now I can't say anything about you now, but I will say that we had a very nice anniversary meal last week. We went to one of our favorite restaurants, which we've taken many of you to. It's a favorite restaurant of lots and lots of people that of our friends that have come to Krakow, called Miód Malina, and it's usually very hard to get into. There are very few restaurants that are that tough to get a reservation for, and that's one of them. And actually, we went there last Thursday for our anniversary, and we were the only ones there, which most people don't like being alone in a restaurant. Kash and I personally love being alone in a restaurant, so it was excellent anniversary. And yeah, as we begin year 4. In terms of what else we've been watching and doing, I started rewatching something that has been a favorite of ours here at the JCC for a very long time, something that 5-6 years ago we were really pretty obsessed with, which is Parks and Recreation. Highly recommended. If you haven't watched Parks and Rec, then go start watching Parks and Rec. It is, I think, absolutely genius. That's with Amy Poehler and just an amazing cast, Aziz Ansari, and just some really good Rashida Jones. Really excellent show. I'm sure many of you have seen it, but we started rewatching that. Pretty excited that the NBA season is starting soon. Hopefully, although the situation in Florida looks very tough in terms of the corona. Actually, not only Florida. Not fair to pick on Florida when the US overall is not doing too great. But the NBA is supposed to, they're supposed to resume the season for the teams that still have a shot at the playoffs. They're going to play a few games and then have the playoffs. And the idea is that they're doing it at Disney World, sort of inside the bubble of Disney World in Orlando, and keeping that sort of hermetically sealed, that to keep people safe, to keep the players and the people associated with the teams safe. We'll see if that happens. As of now, it's still supposed to happen. It's an exciting NBA season before the whole corona situation started 4 months ago. So hopefully we won't lose the rest of the season and that can go through. Somebody who is to be a big, huge sports fan now. I'm still a pretty big sports fan, but mostly the NBA. Don't follow baseball and the NFL as closely as I used to. But NBA I still do. Let's see what else is going on. Looking at our summer plans, we were very eager to, of course, come to the U.S. We usually spend August in the States visiting friends and going to lots of fun places out in Long Island, the Hamptons, and seeing people all over, going out to Colorado and seeing friends out there. That's not going to happen this summer. We were then hoping for Israel. Israel also not looking great with the uptick as the second wave has hit Israel. So we are looking now at Greece. We need to be, Kasha and I definitely need some beach time. Greece is a good place to go in terms of beaches and not such a terrible amount of corona. So lots of islands to explore without too many people. So it looks like we'll hopefully spend some time in August in Greece. What else? On Saturday, I am doing a podcast with my friends at the Krakow, which is the Krakow Podcast. Some expats here in Krakow have an excellent podcast that I've been lucky enough to be the guest on a couple times, and once I just sat in with them. And they're doing a 2-part episode on pizza, and the first part was just sort of the general idea about the pizza business, and the second part is pizza places in Krakow. And there are very, very few things that I am an expert on, and one of them I will say without any hesitation is that I consider myself an expert on pizza. And on this Saturday, we're going to record, and then they'll put it up when they put it up, and I'll send out a link to all you guys about that. But I'm really excited to talk some pizza. In preparation for that, Kasha and I went out and had pizza twice this week. It was plenty of social distancing, so don't worry. The first time we sat outside, and the second time it was inside, but the restaurant was empty. If any Krakowians watching went to a place called Mr. Lobster, which was more of a Roman type pizza, kind of very thin, crackery type pizza. But and the second place we went to called Sete, which was excellent, Neapolitan restaurant in Krakow, pizza place, very, very good, surprisingly good. So I have some new pizza to talk about on Saturday as I record the podcast. And then on Sunday, very big, very, very big day. And this I alluded to earlier when I mentioned Marcel. On Sunday, I am going to ride from Auschwitz to the JCC to do the path of Ride for the Living, as we've done every year for the past 7 years. Of course, it's virtual this year. Some people have made the ride, and I'm going to do it in honor of all the riders who couldn't make it, all the victims of the Holocaust, but really especially in honor of Marcel Zielinski and Bernard Offen, who are the two survivors who ride with us. Marcel is a pretty serious cyclist and rides the whole way, and he's riding laps around the rest of us. And Bernard rides with me. The last year he did the ride with me a part of the way, at least on a tandem bike. So sad that I'll have to be riding by myself without Bernard with me on the tandem, and without what was supposed to be 300 people this year at the ride. But I'm excited to do it, and that will be the closing ceremony for the virtual ride. So we're going to have people cut away to people all over. We'll be broadcasting 3 separate times, and they'll put the information here in the comments. 3 separate times during the day on Sunday, and I will start out from Auschwitz-Birkenau and ride back to Krakow, and we'll get a lot of people involved who have been participating. We're over 1,200 participants, which is really pretty phenomenal for us. We're very excited with the virtual Ride for the Living, and as I said on other podcasts, we're going to keep it going. One thing I should mention, Latka Hamantash was supposed to be this past Sunday, and Cheryl Fishbein, a good friend of ours who was on the side representing Latka this year, had a medical emergency in her family. It was her granddaughter who had to go to the hospital, and Cheryl was taking care of her. So we had to postpone. So the Latka Hamantash is going to be on, it was in July 12th, July 5th, July 19th. 2 weeks, we postponed it for 2 weeks. So at 5 p.m. American time, New York time, sorry, not American time, 5 p.m. New York time on July 19th will be this year's Latka Hamantash. Latka, Dr. Cheryl Fishbein versus Hamantash, Rabbi David Seth Kirshner, the rabbi of 5 p.m. Krakow time. Oh, I got in trouble. Okay, thank you for the correction. 5 p.m. Krakow time on July 19th with Cheryl Fishbein against Rabbi Kirshner, who's the rabbi of Temple Emmanuel and Kloster, big synagogue, a conservative synagogue in northern New Jersey that we have a great relationship with, that actually got us one of the cars that we have here for our children to transport the children. So really excited to have this event, always moderated by Benjamin Lorch, who brought the Latka Hamantash to us from Krakow, from University of Chicago, where he studied. And I did have one question I'm going to get to. How did it not feel having the festival? This would have been festival week, very, very strange week in Krakow not having the festival, but we're excited that the festival did a part of their activities were online, and they're going to do online programming all year, and then we'll all be back with the festival and with the bicycle ride next summer, God willing. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in my very special guest, Smadar Bar Akiva, the Executive Director of JCC Global, a network that represents over 1,000 JCCs worldwide. Smadar, before that, worked for JCC Association of North America. She was a shlicha. She was sent out by the Israeli government or by the Jewish agency connected to the government, worked in Columbus, Ohio. She's done many, many different things in the Jewish world and has been just sort of everywhere. She, her MA from Hebrew University, a BA from Hebrew University in international relations, studied strategic management for NGOs at Harvard. And now she has moved recently to Tel Aviv after living for a long time in Jerusalem. Smadar is somebody that I've learned an incredible amount from and has really helped navigate my path in the Jewish world. So it is an incredible honor to welcome you, Smadar Bar Akiva, to my AMA. How are you, Smadar?
Thank you, Jonathan. I'm so honored to be one of your guests.
And not only is Smadar joining us today, and it's not just any day, it's Smadar's birthday. So we have a happy birthday to you, Smadar, from all of us watching and taking it.
Thank you. It's nice to spend it with you.
Oh, it's very nice. I'm honored that you're spending. I hope that if this weren't a Corona situation, you wouldn't be spending your birthday with me on this AMA. But as it's Corona, all bets are off.
I like it to spend it with people that I like, so it's fine. Yeah.
You're very. So Smadar, of course, if you haven't been able to tell by the, you might not tell by the accent because I can't really hear it, but maybe by the name Smadar Bar Akiva, you might be guessing that Smadar is Israeli. So Smadar, where in Israel are you from?
So I was born in Nes Ziona. It's a small town south of Tel Aviv. And I moved, actually, when I was 2 years old, my family lived for 2 years in Venezuela. My parents were shlichim and they opened the Maccabi branch there. And then I lived in Jerusalem for more than 30 years. In the middle, I was a community shlicha and lived in Columbus, Ohio for 3 years. And 3 years ago, I moved to Tel Aviv. So there are many places that I call my home.
Absolutely. So your parents, it's very interesting. I didn't know, or I didn't remember that your parents were shlichim. Your parents were also emissaries who were sent out to sort of help spread the word about Israel and Yiddishkeit. Maybe talk about that, what you remember from that. And
first of all, my parents were shlichim before there were even phones in Israel. And they went on a boat and the only connection was with letters. So for us now in this global world, what they did was really admirable. And I think, I grew up in a very sort of provincial, third generation Israeli town, but my home was always connected to Jews around the world from an early age. And this is why I'm very familiar with the Latin American culture, and I know Spanish, and our home was always open more to things that were happening around the world.
So it's really you almost thinking about that background. It was you were really born to be in the position that you were in. But before we're going to get to talk a lot about JCC Global because there's a lot to talk about. But before I want to get to that, tell us about you were a shlicha, so you were an emissary. Maybe talk about your previous experiences in the U.S. doing that at first, the first time in the U.S.
So the interesting thing about being a shlicha is that prior to that, I worked for 6 years for JCC Association of North America. And it was interesting because only after being shlicha for 3 years, I came back to the office and I said, okay, now I understand what we're doing. Because until you live in a community overseas and you understand the ins and outs, and you schedule a lecture on the football night, the Super Bowl night, or Yom Ha'atzmaut falls on Mother's Day, you really understand. And actually, I got to admire the richness and the dedication of Jews around the world. So it was a life-changing experience. And when I came back, I really felt that I gained a lot of knowledge and understanding.
So let's talk a little bit about JCC Global. So originally
before that, I want to talk about my connection to you.
Okay.
My parents are from Europe. My father is from Bulgaria, but my mother was born in what was Poland, in Belz, which now is in Ukraine. And this is why I have roots not far from you. And we even did a root trip several years ago and you hosted us. So my family feels very, very close to your JCC and the wonderful things that you're doing.
Well, thank you. As Smadar, I was thinking what to wear today. Now I'm always pretty informal person and had to come in from my sunbathing, put on a shirt because, it's sunny this summer, but I'm wearing today, I was thinking, what shirt should I wear? Now I have a lot of JCC swag. Everybody always gives me, and I travel all the time as you do. And I thought I'm going to wear the most exotic JCC shirt that I have, which is JCC Albuquerque. So Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I haven't been, but once I had visitors from there, and the guy was wearing the shirt, and I was like, wait, I'll trade you. And I had him take his shirt off, and we traded on the spot. So I wanted to think in terms of your global presence. I picked the craziest JCC shirt.
So it's a hint that we need to send you a JCC Global shirt.
There are JCC Global shirts?
Not yet.
We need to make them.
We will make them and send them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So I think it's not always clear. Americans maybe don't know that much about just sort of the JCC world. People always ask, oh, they don't understand if the JCC is independent, if it's like McDonald's, just like a franchise. So maybe talk about what the JCC world looks like, and then we can talk about JCC Global in the context of that.
Okay, so JCC Global is one of the largest networks of Jewish engagement around the world. And there are more than 1,000 branches all over the world, about 600 in Israel. People may know them as matnasim or community centers, depending if they belong to a municipality or to a governmental network. There are about 300 Jewish community centers in North America, and the name JCC comes from there because in other countries it's called in another name. Then there are about 300 Jewish community centers all over the former Soviet Union, and that they are actually run by JDC, which is a major partner of ours. There are about more than 100 in Latin America. They have an association, and they are also under the umbrella of Maccabi World Union, which is also one of our partners. Then there are about 100 in Europe. And then there are here and there a few in the Far East. And what brings them together is really centers of informal Jewish education. We encourage them to be whatever they are in their own communities. So it can be the JCC in Manhattan, which is large and has a 10-story high building, and it can be a JCC the size maybe of your office above the synagogue in Croatia, and everything in between. And we welcome all of them as long as they are community centers, pluralistic, focus on formal education, bring the community together, and find many ways to bring Jews together.
And there are different, within the JCC Global, there are different regional networks. Like the Americans would be maybe aware of the JCCA, the JCC Association.
Right.
And then.
Right, and then in Latin America, there is CLAM.
And we got to get them to change that name.
Right, and in Europe, it's EAJCC. In FSU, they don't really have the name for the network. It's JDC as the umbrella, and in the Far East, there is no network. In Israel, החברה למתנ"סים והתאגדות המרכזים הקהילתיים. And JCC Global we like to see ourselves as the glue that brings everyone together. And we believe that everyone has what to give and what to receive. And for us, you are all equal, small, big, far away, close, sophisticated, newborn. You're all part of our family. And what we like to do is to strengthen Jewish peoplehood through this vehicle of millions of Jews that walk through JCC doors every week.
So maybe talk a little bit about some programs that, because JCC Global, it's not only a network that helps connect and and facilitates contact between JCCs, but you've also have run and are running programs and conferences.
Right, so what we like to believe is that if you don't touch and feel, and excuse all our Zoom lovers, and I'm one of them, we feel that this is what makes the real connection. When you touch and feel each other, when you talk to each other, when you get upset, when you get happy. So we try and connect people, and we feel that in this way you also strengthen your identity and your connection to the global Jewish community and your responsibility. So therefore, one of the things that we do is we encourage global partnerships among Jewish communities. And for us, it's very important that it's not only the giants, North America and Israel, but every Jewish community can join. We like very much the shape of a triangle. We like to have a leg in Israel, a leg in North America, and a leg anywhere around the world, and to create partnership around topics that are of interest to the JCCs. And this is why it doesn't really matter. And actually, you were involved and are involved in two great partnerships. And one was about ecology and sustainability, and the other one about women empowerment. And every one of them was amazing, and every one of them could be replicated. But then another triangle can think that working with special needs is what they want to focus on, or teen leadership, or music. So it's a wide platform that can connect the JCCs. And maybe you can tell us what this connection, how it affected the participants in Krakow, because you had some amazing participants.
We had our programs. Our Amitim is the name of the JCC Global program that you're referring to, and our first one, as you said, an ecological program between JCC Milwaukee and Jerusalem, and the JCC in Ginot Ha'ir in Jerusalem, for students, for people in their 20s. And that program, I think we learned a lot on that program. It helped connect us. In some ways, it's about the program, but I think really, not to say that it's a pretext, but in some ways, the idea is to connect people around the world, and the vehicle for doing that is the program. And the program, of course, itself obviously has value, but it's also the value of the connection. So I think that was for us, important. And then this program, I think, is really something that will continue, has legs. This, which we're doing now, which is called Kol Isha, which is a woman's voice, which is also the play, of course, on this idea in Judaism that the ultra-Orthodox can't hear a woman's voice, which I think many people in a more pluralistic type of Judaism have a big problem with that. So we like that name, and it's a partnership between the JCC in Palo Alto and Givanim in Ramat Sharon and JCC Krakow, and it's this women's leadership, women's empowerment, women's leadership project, which has really kind of taken on a life of its own. That has, I think it's also easier because they're a little older than the students, but they are, they outside of the framework of the JCC. They really are in contact with each other and doing their own programming and things. So it's exactly really what you wanted. So for us, we as a JCC in Krakow, with our post-communist, post-Holocaust narrative, we are trying to show the world that we're here by connecting and doing that, while of course doing these projects. And Poland is a place where it's very traditional. In some ways, women have a lot of equality, but in some ways, it's still the woman is the one cleaning and cooking and doing all that. So this idea of women's empowerment, I think, for our community has particular merit, and it's our involvement with JCC Global has been really phenomenal. Some of the people that I'm closest to in the world, both professionally and personally, are people that I've met through, under the auspices of JCC Global.
Right, and we were very impressed with the caliber of young women that were in this program, and the things that we were doing, and their dedication to the community. It was amazing. And we had one evening when we went around the room, the three communities together, and everyone had to say in one sentence their Jewish identity. And there were so many different stories and vignettes, and it was so moving. Yeah. And then about the conferences is doing larger gatherings. And this is also the way to bring in and induct some new people into the network. And we have a large world conference every 4 years. The last one was December 2019, so we were very lucky. And until the next one, everything will be okay. Yeah. And in between, we run some regional or global or smaller conferences, which bring people together. We still believe with online programming, which we are now very deep into, that peak face-to-face experiences are really the glue that connects this network and connects the people around the world.
Absolutely. So I'm going to talk to you also about the current program that you're doing with these hubs, the Dr. Mark Raymer hubs, which we'll talk about in a moment. We can get back to that. But I wanted to just touch upon something that you talked about, this triangle structure, which is Israel, the three legs of the triangle being Israel, the United States, and then sort of the rest of the world. And I feel like one of the challenges that somebody like me has running a JCC or building community in Europe is that I think there's very much been an idea for a long time of this sort of bipolar vision of the Jewish world certainly among American Jews and I think and Israeli Jews, that you have two places to live, America and Israel, and then you have other places that you are supposed to have escaped from, or you are supposed to escape from at some point when you kind of get your head around that, right? That the two eventual places that you'll wind up are America and Israel, and all the rest of the Jews in the world are just stuck somewhere and haven't gotten off their butts to go to one of those places. So this idea of the of actual innovation and Jewish life and important Jewish life coming from this third place, although the third place is really just everywhere else, is I think a new idea and something that JCC Global, I see it as an important part of its mission, just because by definition, you said, wait a minute, the connection can't only be, Israel and America, which is the obvious, easy way to do it, but to bring this in. So what do you think about this idea of the periphery?
This is what we believe in, and not only that, we want to empower the smaller communities, the communities that are far away, places that people don't know that even Jews live in, to feel that they sit at the same table, that they are equal partners. We even made it a point to charge the same amount for participating in the program from all the communities, and of course, communities in dire needs we subsidize. But it was, by the way, it was the first program, I think, that Israelis paid the same amount as the others. Usually someone pays for them, the Americans usually. But it was for us a principle to show that we're all part of this network, we're all part of this chain. And what we found out, that if you go to Poland or you go to Chmelnytsky or Zaporozhye, and you visit, even if you come from a large JCC in a very strong community, you come back inspired. There are things that we can learn from you. And this dialogue is very, very important, and meeting the other and understanding the different voices of Judaism. And it also breaks a little bit this question of who is more important, where do you need to live? It kind of democratizes the discussion. And also we want to bring voices. For example, we are now engaged in a very serious study of Jewish identity in Latin America, which not many people know about. We feel that, again, it's a voice. If you read the blogs or the newspapers, you read about the larger communities. We want to bring it forth. The same about Europe and other places. So we believe in affirmative action and actually giving even more emphasis to communities that usually are not in the limelight.
No, absolutely. A friend of mine who also a friend of yours, Rabbi Michael Paley, years ago, I heard him once say that really resonated with me, that he feels that sort of the real energy from the Jewish world is coming from the periphery, not from the standard Israel and America, that these are voices that haven't been heard and haven't, or in a long time.
Yeah, I want to add that one of our scholars once came back and said, when you go to these new communities, you suddenly remember why we were built to begin with. Because when you are a Baltimore 100 years old JCC, you sometimes forget how it all started and what was the passion behind the founders. You have your large institution and all your programs, and suddenly it connects you. The other thing that I want to say, apropos COVID times, that now that we're looking into new models for JCCs, I think that a lot of us will look to the East to see some of your communities that operate more on a shoestring budget and without a lot of personnel and a lot of overhead and without very glitzy gyms, but they do focus a lot on Jewish identity and renewal. And maybe that will be a model for the future JCC, who knows? After all, the gyms that were built in the JCCs in North America and Latin America started because Jews weren't accepted to the YMCA's. That was 100 years ago. Today it's different. Today, so all these new thoughts today really require that around the table, we will be sitting with small communities. We have some new JCCs, even during now this time. There is a new JCC in Prague. There is a new JCC in Brighton, UK. There is a new JCC in Sydney. There are many new JCCs.
Sydney?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, Smadar, we need to talk about Sydney.
Okay.
They need maybe they need help.
Right. So it's very encouraging and hopeful that even now there are groups of Jews around the world that want to adopt the JCC model. And now that that everything is open for them, who knows what they will do? They will look at around the world and see what works for them.
Corona may be the way to look at the corona in some sense. Obviously it's tragic and people losing their livelihood and getting sick and dying and stuff. But to some degree, maybe the effect will be like a forest fire, that after the forest fire, there are things that grow and the soil has been, creating this tabula rasa, and you're able to do things. I think that the North American model of everything being very dependent financially on the gym and the preschool and the summer camp, certainly the preschool, the gym aspect of it. I think if you would say to most JCC directors that you can have people coming to your JCC for the educational programming and social and cultural stuff without the gym, the financial aspect of the gym, I think almost all of them would say straight away that the gym is sort of, I don't want to say necessary evil, but sort of a little bit of a necessary evil, because that's the model and that's the financial model. It's not necessarily the real focus that what people really want to focus on.
It's an economic driver, but we definitely have people, like your friend Mark Shapiro in Milwaukee, that are already thinking ahead and thinking that in the future, this may not be the economic driver, and looking into a different economic model. And certainly, we at JCC Global, we have a lot of focus on Jewish identity and engagement. So the JCCs that we see that are really moving ahead in this direction are the ones that really show that it makes a difference to go to the JCC. Why go to the JCC and not to the best gym next door?
Yeah.
Because you get a sense of community that you don't get anywhere else. So the more we focus on community and community building and Jewish identity, the better we will be. And we have yet to see, the best practices haven't been invented yet. We will have to build them together. But this is, as you said, it's very sad, the situation now, but there are many possibilities, opportunities, and it's also accelerated trends that were already happening.
Yeah.
So the membership model, for example, was already in question, and collaboration with other institutions, even in the preschools and the camps, was already being talked about. So now it forces people to make some hard decisions, and some of them will really be able to accommodate the young generation of Jews. We had the other day a fascinating gathering with 100 JCC leaders from Latin America, from 18 countries, including El Salvador with 120 Jews, to Sao Paulo, which is the largest JCC in the world, and everything in between. And we spoke about some of the trends, and we had youngsters coming to the session and saying to the establishment, you have to listen to us. We are in a different place. We may not feel that the doors are so open. We may not feel that you're listening to us. We may not feel that you're giving us leadership positions. And it's happening. And now I think people will listen more than before. So, so it's frightening and exciting, but I'm hopeful, the way Jews, we are now, today's Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, the day that starts 3 weeks before Tisha B'Av, and when we commemorate the destruction of the two temples, and we know that Judaism always had a way to reinvent itself. So we may be on the cusp of another reinvention, another Yavne, so to speak. And with people like you, we will be able, I think, to go through it.
I'm just happy to be able to be involved. My involvement with JCC Global has been something very important for me, and I always feel very energized in being around you and learning from you. Tell us about the program that JCC Global is doing now, about the hubs.
Okay. And I apologize a little bit about the noise. You'll be glad to know that in Israel, despite the corona, they are rebuilding my road behind
Okay,
you.
no, good.
Okay.
That's okay. I hear you fine.
It's till late in the evening, working from 7 o'clock in the morning. So it's
good they're working.
You know, during lockdown, every day they were working, and I was opening the window, and I was so happy to hear that noise. It was the noise of life. So, so we had a strategic plan that we worked on for more than a year. Actually, you were part of it. And it's very interesting because if you read it now, you would think that it was written during COVID times. And the idea was to develop virtual communities and virtual groups of professionals and lay leaders, learning together, studying together, sharing together. And you know, we are a network, so it's a hub and spokes, but our dream is to have many hubs and spokes. And many people, for example, like you leading another hub and people all over the world, but we're starting with us with a demonstration. And so we developed this concept of JCC Global Hubs. Unfortunately, one of the people who was really behind this program, Dr. Mark Raymer, who was our president, died unexpectedly about a year ago. So together with his family, we decided to dedicate this project in his memory. Interestingly enough, in 2019, we said that the first hub will open July 1st, and it opened June 24th. So we have a few topics that we want to open hubs. We started with the research development hub, which is still going on and very interesting to learn. And I know you and your team are on this hub. We're going to open another one on reimagining the JCC. In the future, we are going to open one on cultural arts as community builders, Beit Midrash for management, and many other, you know, we have a long list of topics which we are going to open. And the idea is to bring, for example, in the Research Development Hub, we have 45 participants from 14 countries. And again, from a large JCC in Boca Raton to Oive, Amsterdam, which is a storefront JCC. And interestingly enough, there is a conversation, there is a dialogue, people share, people learn from each other. And the idea is to provide tools, but also to have a trigger for communication and collaboration. And hopefully you will continue these connections with peers around the world. So we are very excited about this program. And unfortunately, you know, unfortunately we had the corona, but fortunately it actually drove this program even faster. And for today, for people to tell them get on a Zoom, you know, it's not a big deal. And as you know, we were working with Zoom already since it started.
We were early out with the Zoom. That's right. People hadn't heard. Isn't it funny to think not too long ago when we were always explaining to everybody what Zoom is?
And this is how we worked for many years, because in between your meetings, all the planning was done, you know, So,
no, but I remember when we were discussing the viability of the hubs, and one of the questions, oh, well, will it work to do it remotely, you know, with this, and you know, the cost versus, you know, what you get for being able to do it remotely, and there you go.
Right.
So it was good timing.
One of the advantages, I think, of JCC Global, although it's a network of more than 1,000 JCCs, we're very nimble, and we operate like a startup. So we always look for the best ways to augment resources and to look for things that will be feasible to all the JCCs. We want programs that every JCC can join. So this is what we've been doing.
Smadar, you are without question the world expert on JCC. So, you know, maybe people will go to a few JCCs in their life. I'll go to, I don't know, a couple dozen, but you are really, you know about all JCCs. Can you give us a few examples of sort of very interesting kind of places that are not just the typical, I mean, there's lots of great JCCs out there, but you mentioned Oive, Amsterdam, which they're, you know, I talked to them as well, that's kind of starting up, or maybe a place like CDI in Mexico. We have Shia watching. So just places that are, to me, are really kind of, especially for Americans watching or something, that are, you know, that are blow your mind. type
Right.
of, maybe some innovative ones or different programs.
Right. You know, Chernyakhovsky said, "Ha'adam hu tavnit nof moladeto." The person is a blueprint of his homeland. And you can actually go to any JCC and you will see the manifestation of the culture and the country that they live in. And at the same time, you close your eyes and you go inside and you have the smell of the early childhood and the camp, and it seems the same. It seems the same. So, for example, we once visited a place called Nikolaev, Ukraine, which has an amazing executive director that for years was nagging us, you have to come visit, you have to come visit. This is like a 7-hour drive from Kiev, from 3-hour drive from Odessa, from Odessa, in really the middle of nowhere. And we were schlepping actually with the late Mark Raymer and his wife Nomi, and there were Menachem and Adina Ravivi. Menachem is our chairperson. And we said, and I remember Mark had to stay another day for that. And he said, well, what are we schlepping there? We get to this very industrial city in Ukraine. And we see a building that looks like an apartment building. And this guy built a JCC on his own. JCC gave him very little help. He did it on his own. And it's he and his wife and his son. And you go inside and you see groups of people, of adults, of seniors, of youth, and you see photos on the wall of kids from the age of 4 to 16. Every year they put a photo. So this is their family. This is their life. This is where they learn about Judaism. And then that evening, we have a performance of a dance troupe and a choir. And this whole community is this building that the 3 people developed. And then you go to CDI Mexico, which is an amazing Jewish community center that serves thousands and thousands of Jews in a community which is segregated according to synagogues. There is a Sephardi, Ashkenazi, Syrian Halabi, Syrian Damascus, and they don't, intermarriage in Mexico is between these synagogues.
Yeah.
And the only place that everyone comes together is the JCC. And last year I celebrated my birthday with 15,000 Jews at the Pan American Games that CDI Mexico organized for all of Latin America. And this is a community that really takes care of Jews in every aspect of their lives. And the JCC, again, it's their home. But it's very different. It has huge grounds. It has a festival of dance, so
Unbelievable.
in between. So, people always ask me, what is your favorite JCC? So I'm saying it's like asking who is your favorite child. Each one of the JCCs is so special, and there are so amazing people running the JCCs and dedicating their lives to the JCCs. And you can see, and I'll just end with one example that we went once in Serbia, and we stopped in a mall in a rainy day. Actually, Shia was with us on this trip. In a rainy day, and we go to a mall, literally to a store, and there is the putting of the mezuzah of a JCC of this little town that I don't even remember its name, but Israel's ambassador came, and it's a group of families in this little town that decided to have a JCC, convinced the mayor, and he gave them a store in a mall, and this is their JCC, and they were shining. They were so happy to have a Jewish community center.
I think the real beauty of it is how open source it is, that a JCC can really be anything, as you say, that as long as it adheres to certain basic Jewish values, and then that's it. I wanted to ask, you mentioned earlier, which I didn't know, that the Sao Paulo JCC is the biggest in the world. So Mexico City, and of course Mexico is North America, but why is it that the Latin American, that some of these JCCs are so huge? Like, what is the Sao Paulo JCC like?
So Sao Paulo JCC is actually similar to the one in Mexico, just the number of, the one in Mexico I think has about 20,000 members, and the one in Sao Paulo maybe 40.
Yeah.
I think that this is, but also in the United States, you have some JCCs that have thousands and thousands of families. In Latin America, there is also this model of building a JCC with grounds, and also like with the country club, for example, in Argentina, where people have summer homes, winter homes.
Yeah.
And in many places, this is where they find community. And you go to Buenos Aires on a Sunday morning and you see the whole family, the little children and the grandparents all eating together, having a barbecue at 10 o'clock in the morning in their home that they built in the grounds of the JCC.
Wow.
Yeah, but as I said, but then when we have discussions together and we talk about what's your challenges with early childhood and what's your challenges with youth, you find very similar concerns. So, and very similar programs and activities, just the scale is different. Yeah.
It's fascinating. I haven't been. I need to see the South American JCCs. I need to go on one of your trips, Smadar.
You will. Listen, this day shall come. The day shall come. Yeah.
Once we start traveling again. So have you ever wanted to be in charge of a JCC, or has that ever been almost, because I'm sure that you've had options of doing that, obviously, to me at least, but have you ever been close to that, or what are your thoughts about that?
I think the closest to that I was when I was a shlicha in Columbus, Ohio. I worked very closely with the JCC, and I ran many programs that were very similar to JCC type. The thing was that I love my work so much that I never thought about moving anywhere because every day has new challenges and new exciting things happening, and I really like this connection. But I can tell you that I'm involved here in my community with building a Jewish community center in the neighborhood where I live. There is no community center.
Really?
And I'm on the steering committee, and actually right before COVID, we started focus groups. So I hope to be part of building a community center here in Tel Aviv in my neighborhood. And it's actually really nice to sit in these focus group discussions and hear what people want, what they don't want, how they see the community center. Some see it just as a place for activities, others see it as a community builder, to hear all the voices. So it's interesting to see the process from the inside.
Little do they know they have the world expert on community building and JCCs in the room.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be a nice JCC. I know where you live. So.
And actually, we started with a group of friends here. We started Kabbalot Shabbat. We started JCC Without Walls, doing Kabbalot Shabbat in the park and some other programs. And hopefully, as soon as things get a little better, we will continue.
You still on the boardwalk in the morning?
Every morning, 6 o'clock.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, that's the medicine. That's the corona medicine that my doctor prescribed. So, yeah.
I don't want to. I know you don't want to say it, but I was always teasing you that when you move from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv, it's really Aliyah. But I don't want you to.
No,
I know you love Jerusalem.
I love Jerusalem, and I have very, very fond memories. But it was time also to make a change, be closer to my family, and also try some new things. I think it's always good to change and experiment and to tread new waters and not to sit still. So that's my motto for life.
No question. And you're able to see so much of the world by doing what you're doing. So tell me, Smadar, very important questions as we start to wrap things up. Are you on Team Latka or Team Hamantash?
Latke.
Yes, there we go.
I'm a Galicianer, half Galicianer.
Latka, of course.
Yeah.
Latke is very, very important.
There is nothing like my mother's latke. Although in recent years it's not a traditional one, it's also with sweet potato. But
your mother, by the way, is I met your mother, who is such an exceptionally beautiful woman. She looks like you feel like it's a movie star that just came into the room and sitting there like glamorous.
Yeah, I have very special parents. I've been very fortunate, and that's my connection to your part of the world. We had in my home we had Yiddish and Ladino. Both languages were spoken. So it's a nice combination. And my mother cooks actually Bulgarian food. She cooks Sephardi food because of my father, who didn't like Ashkenazi food.
All the Ashkenazi, we all know that the Sephardic food is much better. We all acknowledge that.
Agree.
No argument. There's no argument from the Ashkenazi.
So this is why you don't have a duel there.
No question. And Smadar, the final question I ask all my guests, very difficult question. What are your 3 favorite films?
What are my 3 favorite films? Wow. Maybe books is better. Films.
You can tell me your books, but you still have to tell me the film.
Okay. I have to remember, I haven't seen one in a bit, but first of all, I like documentaries.
Okay.
So I really like documentary movies, and I like movies about books. So like the one of David Grossman, אישה בורחת מבשורה. And I'll have to get back to you on that, okay?
Fair enough. And also the question, will you be, there's a rumor that you are ready to commit to 2021 Ride for the Living in Krakow.
Yes.
Yes?
Count me in.
She's in. She's in.
I'll start walking now and I'll get to you by time.
Exactly. Perfect.
Yeah.
Smadar, thank you so much for all
Thanks for hosting me.
A friend and for doing this. Thank you so much. And happy birthday. Happy birthday, Smadar.
It's great to celebrate with you, and you keep up your good work, Jonathan. We are very, very proud of you and what you have done to JCC Krakow over a short period of time, and how you open doors to every possibility and every initiative. Good luck.
Thank you, Smadar. Be well.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.